What's up, everybody? It's Old Pop, and we're back with another video for you guys. More Shadowlands content, obviously. In this video, we're going to be doing pre-patch caster specs and the tier list for them. A couple days ago, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, I made an identical video to this, but it was from Melee, and now we're going to cover the casters. Melee seems to be a little bit more spread out in terms of the tier list, like between S, A, B, C, all that stuff. They kind of seem to be all either really good or really bad when it comes for casters. Just like the melee video, the pre-patch still has Essence and Azerite, so things are going to change when the game officially comes out. It'll switch to Covenants and Conduits, so I just want that to be mentioned before I start this video. I will be bringing up stuff with Conduits as I go through this video. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that before I start. Again, if you enjoy my content and you like the content that I'm putting out for you guys, if you could subscribe to my channel, it would be greatly appreciated. So let's jump right into it. So first off, we're going to start with the D tier. So Demonology Warlock. This class just makes me laugh. And it makes me laugh because it's never good. I don't recall any time that it was ever good. I don't know why it's in the game. I feel like they should just either buff it up or just get rid of it. Like, they just don't know what to do with this. So I'll get into why. So it has pretty good 1v1 capability. I will say that about it. It is pretty good 1v1 capability. It suffers from the similar situation with BM. They rely very heavily on their minion. Right now, for some reason, AoE damage from classes just wipe out minions. It used to be that your minion or pet, whichever one you had, it just didn't take as much damage. But for some reason right now, I guess it's just because there's just so much burst in the game that the pets just can't withstand it. So classes that rely heavily on their pet and their moves rely on their pet are being really hurt because of it. So obviously that's going to affect Demonology. They rely heavily on their Fell Hunter. So if their Fell Hunter isn't out there, they have a problem. The resurrection of their minion is also another issue right now, especially when it comes to BM. I mentioned this in my video for Melee for Survival. So I just wanted to bring that all in together. And it pretty much has the same exact issues that it had in BFA. Just not a lot of spread damage from dots, not a lot of big burst, and that's pretty much it. Obviously, I mentioned that it has pretty good one-on-one capability, but that's just because it's a warlock. Warlocks have always been an upper tier class when it comes to one-on-ones, so that pretty much covers them. I don't really want to waste too much time on the D tier because you just shouldn't pick them. So we're gonna get right into the second in the D tier. BM Hunter. Again, it's just not made for PvP at all right now. It used to, obviously, BM had a time where it shined, but right now it's just not made for PvP. I could see it having its spot in PvE, and I'll get into why right now. It has really good AoE damage. And it ramps up from the AoE, like multi-shot does a lot of damage. Obviously, your pets are less likely to die in PvE, so you don't have to worry as much. But again, a lot of their moves rely heavily on pets. Right now, AoE Burst is just destroying pets, so their Resurrect pet in general is 4 seconds, which is really high. If you're playing against a good comp, you'll never get it off. If you're playing in BGs, they're likely to kill your pet first because they know once they're on you, you're never going to get that 4-second cast off. So that's really their problem right now. They rely on their pet even more than Demonology relies on it, because at least Demonology can fear and get things off. They really rely, everything is pet or nothing when it comes to BM Hunter. And like I said, it's the same exact issues that Survival Hunter has. Like, a lot of their abilities basically become meaningless once their pet is taken out, and teams will focus that. But they also do have pretty good one-on-one capability. That's because if they're focusing the pet for too long and they're not taking it out, they might be able to get a couple big crits on you. But again, that's it. They shine when it comes to AoE. They'll probably have their place in the PvE raid, but in terms of PvPing, I just don't see any changes being made to BM Hunter or Demonology, where even when Shadowlands comes in and Conduits and Covenants become a factor, them even going up to the C tier, I just think they're just going to be irrelevant. At least for right now. I mean, things could change. Actually, as of today, October 23rd, they had a lot of updates for Elemental Shaman, Shadow Priest, Demon Hunter, mages in general. Actually, a couple things did have like massive changes, but they weren't part of the list. And yeah, and actually their whole class, like the whole warlock class and the whole hunter class, had no changes. But again, in terms of specs, BM and demonology are not your choice. So C tier right now. I don't have anything in the C tier. I left it blank because I just felt that these classes were not good enough to even be in the C tier. So it's blank right now. Everything is either from here on out is B tier or better. So this was a tough one because I feel like it could be A tier, but I'm also kind of putting it in the B tier because I know what's to come of this. So right now they still have their essence and azurite, so they still have their borrowed power. I'm talking about fire mage right now. I'm sorry about that. I should have said that. Fire mage. So they still have their borrowed power. They still have a lot of burst. They weren't as bursty. They aren't as bursty now as they were in BFA. In BFA, they were king, instant cast burst. They were definitely the best mage. But I'm gonna get into why they aren't as good right now. It really bothers me putting them in the B tier because I do think that they'll have their place, and I do think with the right team they could be A tier. But right now, I'm gonna put them in the B tier. Like I said, it is definitely subject to change. I think out of all the classes that I'm gonna go over, this one is the most likely to see some sort of buff at some point. And let's get into why. So they lost Temporal Shield. The only mage right now that has Temporal Shield is Arcane, but the reason why it affects Fire Mage more than it affects Frost Mage is because when Shadowlands comes out and they have their conduit, Frost Mages, will get heals from Shimmer, and they'll get heals when they put on Ice Barrier from the jump, and then they also will get a heal when they Ice Block. Right now, Fire Mage doesn't have any of that, so they have no sort of heal, no sort of like sustain. But I think that is going to change. I don't think they're going to leave them in the dust. That's why I keep saying it bothers me putting them in the B tier. They could really be A tier, but they have the least sustainability and survivability out of all the mages, I would say, right now. Combustion is still really strong. Their single target burst is massive. They will burst somebody down quick. That's like another reason why it bothers me putting them in the B tier. They really are borderline A tier. They just need to be around the right pieces, and I think they will shine in certain environments. So the one thing about them right now, especially in terms of BGs, Greater Pyroblast is on a cooldown, so they won't be able to spam it like they used to be able to for big crits. So that does hurt them a little bit. Obviously, I did mention that Combustion is still really strong. It makes their single target burst very strong. That did not change. It isn't as strong as BFA, but it is still strong. And yeah, that's all I want to say about that. Oh, and they also, obviously, they're a mage. They can still control the field well. They have Frost Nova. They have Polymorph. Like, they still have these pieces in place. So, I mean, right now, B tier. Later, maybe A tier. We'll see how it goes. So, next on the list, we have Destruction. So Destruction Warlock has seen nerfs from since BFA, but there's been new builds being made that make them A tier still. I actually made a video recently that had everything in it. It had healers, casters, and melee, and I made a tier list. I had them in the B tier. I think with the new builds that have been made, they're A tier. I still think Affliction is better than them, but they have completely different playstyles, which I actually like. It's just like completely different styles. It's nice to see. They're more AoE and burst, whereas Affliction is more spread. So obviously they don't rely as heavily on their dots as Affliction does. However, they rely on their burst and their AoE. The new build right now is with Rain of Fire, so that's how they get their AoE damage. Chaos Bolt is still pretty much king. It does big damage. It's definitely still competitive. I think this is the first time in about 2 years that I think it's worse than Affliction. Obviously, Affliction's been receiving a lot of love, and the way that Blizzard's been going about it is they're making a lot of crazy changes on any given day. So any given day, I feel like because Affliction is shining right now, and the dots are strong, and the spread is strong, and they have good sustain, I think they could be nerfed, and Destro gets buffed, and then it's a flip-flop. So, completely different playstyles, but the Warlock class as a whole, you should be pretty happy other than Demonology. we're not talking about that. They have two really strong specs in Destro and Affliction. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it for them. And I would say they're probably more durable in Affliction. I think they could withstand more damage and they could withstand being hit a little bit more. So that actually would end it. Now, next up, Balance Druid. I am so happy that Balance Druid is here. Balance Druid is one of those classes that I root for to be good in PvP because it just seems like they never want to give it love. They never want to give it PvP love. And right now, I think it's A tier, and I think it will remain in A tier for a while. I don't think it'll be bumped up to S tier, but I don't think it'll be dropped down to B tier. So I think right now it's in a pretty good place if you wanted to pick Balance. Now is a pretty good time to do it. The one flaw about them is they don't have a lot of comps that they work well with as of right now, but they are a strong class regardless. I think they're going to be king of RBGs, like absolute king of RBGs. So right now, a big percentage of their damage either comes from single target Star Surge, which I've seen 2-hit KOs. It's really strong, and they have really good AoE. Starfall with one of their talents is the last one and increases its fall down percentage by 300%, so it'll just tick a guy right down. So again, strong AoE, strong burst. They don't rely too much on their dots as they did in previous expansions, so it's kind of like a different style. It's really more about their upfront burst, but that seems what this meta and this expansion is really all about right now is the big burst. So that's why they're seen as really strong. Obviously, excellent mobility, probably S tier in terms of mobility. They also have their bear forms been buffed with frenzied regeneration. It's another way to sustain, keep their sustain up, durability strong. And yeah, that's pretty much it for them. If you're looking for a dot spreader, this isn't the class to pick. This is more of a burst. I know that's kind of unusual, but it's still really, really strong right now. So I would actually be happy if I was a balanced druid. Yeah. So now, Arcane. So early in Shadowlands, like early when things first started coming out about Shadowlands, Arcane Mage was definitely borderline S tier. As of today, they have seen a little bit of nerfs. They're the only mage with temporal shield, which makes sense. Arcane, they have the temporal shield for heals, so it does make sense. They have really high damage single target. You basically are just gonna spam arcane missiles. So I wouldn't, in terms of fun as a mage class, like for the mage class as a whole, I wouldn't say that they're the funnest to play, if that's even a word. But yeah, so I wouldn't. If you're looking in terms of having more fun, I would literally go with Fire or Frost. But they are a little bit better than Fire because of the temporal shield, so they get a little bit more sustain. Obviously, they're a mage, so they have multiple schools of magic. So they have Frost Nova still, Polymorph. They're strong. I still believe that Frost Mage is the better pick right now. Obviously, I'm going to get into more why when I get up to Frost Mage, but that doesn't mean that Arcane isn't a solid pick. The reason, like I was saying earlier with Fire Mage, I wanted to put them in the A tier, but I kind of wanted to also spread the tier list out, and because I see more sustain with Arcane, and the damage is basically right where Fire is, I have it a little bit higher. So, now we're up to Shadow Priest. So, as of today, actually, on October 23rd, Shadow Priest has seen some changes in the patch notes. So, they're still really good. There's no doubt about it. They've kind of seen a little bit of hit to their damage. But to begin with, their strong suit actually wasn't even damage. Because I would say with this meta being all about high burst, they're probably the only caster that can sustain any sort of burst without being a healer. Maybe Elemental Shaman as well, but they're really, really good at it. So they're pretty much indestructible. In terms of one-on-one, they might be the strongest in the game right now. So they have really good spread with all their dots. Damnation was an excellent addition. It lets you apply all your dots in one single click to a target. Devouring Plague right now heals for a lot. It's really, really good. Shadow Mend is really strong for Shadow. It increases your self-healing. Power Word Shield on the initial heal that it gives on top of the damage that it absorbs is really, really strong. I mentioned the Devouring Plague big heals, but it also does big damage. It's more spread than burst, but that's also because it's the pre-patch with essences and azurite. When Shadowlands officially comes out, they're gonna have more burst, which is all about what the meta is, so that's really good. Um, Probably the best durability out of any caster, like I mentioned. Um, oh, and they also have their impenetrable ability. So again, like they just have everything to make sure that they'll live. So everyone else is trying to burst the target down. They're gonna try to spread and then live and then spread and then live, spread, live, and that's like their playstyle is different from everybody else's, which is interesting. And they're gonna work really well in 2v2 teams that don't have a healer. So 2v2 comps that don't have a healer that run in 2 DPSs, they're going to work excellent for their off fields. I think Shadow Priest and Ret Pally you're going to see a lot of. Um, so yeah, that's it for them. So now we have Marksman Hunter. So Marksman Hunter is definitely the best hunter spec by far. Obviously, with camouflage, they could start in stealth. From starting in stealth, they could just do 2 aim shots back to back. When they do True Shot Aurora, increases the critical strike chance and the damage done. So they basically can 2-hit anybody. On top of, obviously, they don't have it right now because it's the pre-patch. But once they have 2 aim shots and their kill shot, and what they're missing is the line of sight. Right now, their line of sight ability from the conduit that they don't even need to worry about people going behind a pillar for a quick heal. All that put in together definitely makes them S tier. They use Tremere Shot over Arcane Shot in their talent build, so now they're getting AoE because they do nature damage to one target. If the other target's close enough, they'll do frost damage to another target. So they have good AoE. Obviously, they have good durability. It's not the best, but it's strong with Aspect of the Turtle. They have pretty good mobility with Disengage and Post Haste. It's not the best, but it's definitely good. Um, and that's it. I mean, that's pretty much all there is about them. The one thing I would have to say out of the whole S tier, they probably, yeah, they probably are the least likely to survive after their initial burst. So it's really all or nothing when it comes down to their initial burst, and then they'll die. Another thing that benefits them, they work excellent with Rogue or things that can make the other target go away because of Hunter's Mark and the line of sight ability. If they have Hunter's Mark on a target that's been shadow dueled by a rogue, they can still see into the shadow duel and burst that target down with the rogue. So again, they really do work well with things that have a good stun. They could CC chain really well with their freeze traps, so they definitely belong in the S tier. Okay. So now we're up to big old Frost Mage. Frost Mage, in my opinion, is the best of all 3 mage specs. They control the field better than anybody in terms of VGs or arena. With Ring of Frost and their Frost Nova. Obviously, they have Polymorph. In their talent build right now, the most likely pick to do is to get rid of your Water Elemental and increase damage to your Frostbolt and Ice Lance. Ice Lance, even at level 50 right now, if you're geared, you could be hitting 3 to 5 Ks per crit. With Fingers of Frost, you could let off 2 of these big shots for 10k. Another thing, which just happened today, it used to be your Ice Lance crit damage was at 15% increase, not including the talent that gives you an extra 3% and stacks up to 5 times. Now it's increased all the way up to 25%. So their hardest hitting move to begin with has now just been buffed. So they definitely belong in the S tier. I don't even think there's any question about it. And I think it's just going to become even more strong when Shadowlands comes out with their conduits from their heal from Ice Block. And obviously they have Shimmer, they have good mobility because they get 2 blinks, they get a heal on each Shimmer that they do, which is just blink. Massive burst with Icy Veins, Fingers of Frost, and one of their PvP talent abilities from their Spell Steal allows them to steal multiple abilities on one shot. So they definitely belong in the S tier. They work well with a lot of different classes, so that's another reason why they belong where they are. And that's about it for them. Now we have Elemental Shaman. Elemental Shaman is another one of those classes that, as of today, they've seen big changes. Regardless of those changes, they still belong in the S tier. Before I go into why the spec is good, I'm gonna explain the changes that were made. So originally, Control of Lava was hard cast. You would hard cast your Lava Burst, and you could basically 1-hit KO somebody very easily, if not 2-hit KO. Okay, so here's the big change. That ability originally gave 25% increased damage to your Lava Burst. it has now changed to give a 30% increased damage to your Flame Shock ability. They also changed one of the conduits to increase your duration of Flame Shock, and it also increases your damage of Flame Shock. So they're really putting an emphasis right now on Flame Shock more than Lava Burst. It used to be flip flopped. It used to be all about the big burst from Lava Burst. Now it's more added dots. But even with that lost damage from Lava Burst, instead of one hit KOing, it was hitting 30Ks in when Shadowlands beta. Even without that, now you get a 2-hit KO, and now you have additional ticks. So I just wanted to say that first before I went into why they also belong in the S tier, even without all that. Healing Stream Totem is baseline, so it's getting really good heals from that. They're almost like a Restoration Shaman, but with Big Burst. Now they have additional ticks with their dots from Flame Shock. Earth Shock now also increases the duration of Flame Shock. So just multiple things. It's all about the Flame Shock, whereas before it was really more about the Lava Burst. It still is, but now they're putting extra emphasis on Flame Shock. Um, Lightning Lasso is really good right now. A lot of people haven't got their PvP trinket because Gladiator's Medallion has been taken out of the game. So Lightning Lasso is their new CC that they get from their PvP talent. It's really strong right now because people aren't even getting that. Earth Shield is really strong, along with the baseline Healing Stream Totem. Um, and yeah, I would say prior to this change, they might have been the hardest hitting out of anybody in the S tier. Now with this change, maybe Marksman could give it a run for its money. So that's for me to find out. I don't really know yet because I haven't got to experience it. It just came out today. I wanted to make this video. I had this video all planned out, and I think even with these changes, this still remains the same. And we're down to our last one, Affliction Warlock. So as I mentioned earlier, Affliction, as for the first time in 2 years, is better than Destro Warlock. But again, their playstyles are completely different. Whereas Destro Warlock, they had bigger burst and more AoE. Affliction's a spreader, which is unusual to the meta because all the other ones are big burst, so it's a spreader like Shadow Priest. It has good sustainability. I don't think it's as good as Destro Warlock, but it's still good because their damage from the spread right now is really, really high. It's going to be hard for a healer to be on top of removing all this stuff. I just don't see it being done, not easily at least. Crucible Flame gives huge damage from your essence, so that's going to change right now because Crucible Flame right now is giving it a 15% increased damage right now, so that's probably where about 20% of your damage is coming from. That's going to change when you don't have your Essence or Azurite anymore. It doesn't matter. I still think they're going to be S tier with or without that. The flaw from BFA was it was too much ramp. Too much ramping in PvP purposes. Ramp is never what you want. Now it's more instant spread. So again, that's good. They also don't need to rely on their pet like Demonology needed to worry about, so that's another bonus. And that's about it. Like I mentioned, regardless, once Shadowlands comes out with the conduit changes, I think they're still going to be really strong. And as of right now, they are the best Warlock spec. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I mentioned, if you do like my content, I'm still going to be putting out way more WoW videos. And if you could sub to my channel, I would really greatly appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in.